Throughout my time as Santa Claus, I've learned some helpful tips and tricks, and for the first time ever, I'm going to share them with you. When I arrive at a hall or a venue, I want to make sure that I'm there very early. So I'll park my car, go inside, and I'll usually ask somebody, where I can go and change and get ready. It's usually the back office or something like that. As I'm in there getting ready, I hear people come in, and I wait for somebody to come and get me and tell me that it's okay to come out as Santa. When I go out there, I make sure that I have, a big entrance, ringing my bells. As I'm doing that, I make sure that, I'm Santa. I make sure that I'm nice, respectful, give everybody the time they deserve, because after all, they're the ones who hired you. So you want to make sure you are Santa. Remember, Santa is always smiling, he's always jolly, laughing, a lot of ho-ho-hos, Don't be afraid to belt out your ho-ho-hos, because that's just Santa. You want to make sure that you are everything that you remember as a child of Santa, be that. When I'm done with my Santa appearance, a lot of times the host will ask me to stay and have food or just hang out. I will respectfully decline, and that's just because children are extremely smart. So if I were to go back in there and the child recognizes me, because let's face it, when they're sitting on your lap, they're studying you. They might remember my face, and guess what? You just made that child a non-believer. So I respectfully decline, and then I go home. But before I go home, I make sure that after all my stuff is packed away, I'll have somebody, an adult, go outside, make sure there's no children outside. And then once I know that there's no children, I will go out, go to my car, and drive off. You have to do things very carefully, especially when you're working with a venue and you're not, you don't have transportation to and from, like a fire truck, for instance. If you're there in your own personal vehicle, you need to be extremely, extremely careful. When I'm in the chair and a child comes up to see me, I make sure that, especially when we're taking the picture, my hands are always in the picture. And that is for obvious reasons, because you don't want to misrepresent yourself. So I always make sure that, I always have my hands visible somewhere throughout the picture. When a child sits on my lap, I make sure that they're not straddling my knee. And that's because if my hand is over here and the other hand is on the child's shoulder, if the child happens to fall over this way, I might not be able to catch him or her quick enough, and you can have a little bit of issue. However, if the child swings both their legs over your knee, if the child were to fall back, well, my arm's right there. And if they fall forward, they're going to just land on their feet, and you're not going to have a crisis on your hands. And it's just something that I like to do just to keep myself a little bit more protected. In addition to taking pictures with children, when somebody brings up a baby, a newborn, what I will usually do is I'll keep the baby like this, like you should with any newborn. But when it comes time to take the picture, I will position myself like this and just kind of go up. So this way, myself and the baby are in the picture. When I do my appearances, I make sure I have the biggest entrance I can have. And that's because you are the man. You are there to make those people happy. If you're doing a private event and they happen to have a DJ, I can 100% guarantee that when you walk through that door and you're ringing your bells and you're just being loud and obnoxious, no one is going to tell you to stop, because who's going to tell Santa to stop? You're going to go on the naughty list for sure. So ring the bells as loud as you can. Me personally, I'm a firefighter. A lot of my events I ride in on the fire truck, and I make sure that when I do ride in on the fire truck, we make as much noise as possible. All right, so here with the fire department, we like to make a lot of noise when we roll in. Isn't that right? And the reason why you want to make a lot of noise is because the children will hear it, they'll run towards a window, and they know, hey, Santa's coming. And they get all excited, and it just makes for a better time. As soon as I get in, I start ringing my bells very loudly, a lot of ho, 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 very loud, big entrance. That's something that I have seen work, not just with myself, but other Santas. If you have big entrance, you're good. I have seen Santas, actually when I was a kid, there was a Santa who came off the fire truck, and it was a party I was at. I was probably about 7 or 8, and he didn't have bells. He didn't do it. He was like a log. He didn't do anything. He came in, and a couple ho ho ho's, no bells, no nothing, and he wasn't interesting. He really wasn't. So I like to make a lot of noise and just get everybody all hyper. When I do my Santa appearances, I always have my magic key with me. And so what the magic key is I found it's a skeleton key. And over time I adopted it as Santa's magic key. So if a child says, how do you get into my house? I don't have a chimney, because they're trying to trip you up. I will take out the magic key, I'll show them the key, and I will tell them exactly what I'm about to tell you. This is Santa's magic key. It only works on December 24th, and it'll only work for me. So if I happen to lose it, it won't work for you. It'll just be a key that doesn't go to anything. And if I do lose it, my elves can give me another one. It works about 5 to 6 seconds before it's in the palm of my hand or in the sleigh, and about 9 to 10 seconds if it's bad weather. And I came up with that story, and the children really, they believe it. I used it so many times. First time I used it, actually, I was very nervous till I just put it out there, and the child was very interested in what more they could learn about with this magic key. And there was a lot of improving on my part that day with that child. But the thing is, you got to be quick on your feet. There's every year there's something new to where I'm improvising, trying to make sure I don't blow my cover or blow the cover of other Santas. So this magic key is definitely something, if you're looking to become a Santa Claus, something that you should maybe keep in your toolbox, so to speak. When a child comes up to see me, they will usually tell me what they want for Christmas, and they will ask a lot of questions. A lot of questions. One of the many questions I get are, what are your elves' names? So I just make up names. But I usually will distract them with one elf, my elf Tinsel. So I describe Tinsel as my elf in charge of technology, the same one who brings the magic key to me. So pretty much when I start telling the child about Tinsel and what Tinsel can do, he or she gets very interested, and after that point, hey, name your elves' names, it's no longer a question, because they're so deeply in thought of this Tinsel character and who is he and what does he do, and so there's more to it. But he's in charge of technology. The other question I get is, what am I getting for Christmas? The most useful answer I have to that is, because you never want to promise a child anything. Because number one, you don't know the financial situation. Number two, you don't know if they're allowed to necessarily have that toy or game or whatever. So the most useful answer to that question is, and I'm going to tell you, is I have something very special for you, and you're going to have to wait until Christmas Day to find out what it is, and I know you're going to like it. And that's it. Children, like I said, will ask a lot of questions. And this goes back to being quick on your feet, thinking of things. You want to have appropriate answers to their questions. Like if they say name your reindeers and you just start pulling out random names like Jim, John, Brian, they're going to know right then and there that you're not being truthful. So the other thing too is learn the reindeers' names. I have not had that happen, although I do know the reindeers' names, but I haven't had that happen. Children usually will ask me again about my elves, about how Mrs. Claus is doing, stuff that they know to be true. I had a child ask me about what the North Pole was like. So I usually tell the child that it's very, very cold, And I just go about what I would think the North Pole would be like. I don't get into details, stuff that's not interesting, like, oh, the polar bear lives next door. Something that's not really realistic. I will say that it's very cold, that we have a workshop, but only myself and the elves and Mrs. Claus have access to it. And if they ask me where is the workshop, I'll tell them that it's underground, just like the movie The Santa Claus.
I don't know. I think it's the North Pole.
That's the North Pole? Hey, buddy, we need some help. Hello? What are you doing?
Close your eyes.
Because if the child's really smart, which a lot of children are, they can go onto Google Maps and see that there is no workshop at the North Pole. So by me saying that it's underground, how can the child verify that? They can't. So that's just another thing that I use in my little toolbox of answers to the questions that children ask. When I'm speaking with a child as Santa, they might ask me, Santa, who do you know? Well, guess what? I know every single sports player. I know every single music artist. Your actions should be non-verifiable. So if they ask you to send a message to their favorite sports player, well, guess what? Santa can do that. Don't ever promise anything. Like if they say, oh, can you make the Giants win the Super Bowl? All you can say, the best answer is, I can talk to the coaches of the team and make sure to see if they can win. You don't want to, like I said, promise anything, because if you say, I'll turn the sky brown, okay, and the next morning the child gets up and the sky's not brown, well, they just lost faith in you, and they might not believe anymore. So never promise anything. The best answer you can give, like I said, is going back to the football coach, is I can talk to the coach and see what they can do. And that's it, and you can leave it at that. Your actions, again, non-verifiable. When you're in your suit, you want to make sure that you are on your best behavior. If you smoke, make sure you don't smoke until you're out of the suit. Don't eat with anything, with your beard or anything on. Don't drink anything, especially alcoholic beverages. You don't want to do any of that in the suit. You are the epitome of goodness. You want to make sure that the children, you are their superhero. They look up to you, so you want to be the best you can be for those children. At the same time, you don't want to have a big ego either. If you take the ego and give it back to the children, it's not Santa-like. Instead, treat everybody as if they were your family member. So, that little child who comes up to you and talks to you, give them, the time they deserve. Treat them as if they were your little brother and sister. That goes a long way. Going back to when I'm at a hall or a venue and I'm hired as a Santa to perform at a party, when I go in, I make sure that as I'm ringing my bells and making my big entrance, I want to make sure what they say, work the room. So I want to make sure I'm looking left and I'm looking right and I'm looking all over. I want to make sure that every child sees me and I see that child, and I wave at everybody, because I don't want to have one child over in the corner who didn't see me wave to them, or I didn't see them, and then that child no longer believes in Santa because, well, hey, Santa didn't know I was here. So you work the room. When I step off the fire truck at pancake breakfast, or even again when I'm at a venue, I will make sure as I make my entrance, I greet everybody, and then I'll greet everybody, all the other children to the left side of the room, to the right side of the room, in front of me. I make sure I greet them before I sit down in my seat. Because what's 10 minutes out of your life gonna cause? It's really going to help you, because they might, in that 5 seconds of you meeting them, they might say, oh, hey, my name's Tommy, do you remember me, Santa? And you say, yes, I do. So when Tommy comes up and sits on your lap, you can address him as Tommy and not little boy or young man, or however you want to address him. You'll kind of have that stored in your brain. It's just, it's very helpful, especially if you're going out and doing your own Santa appearances. It's one of the most important things you can do is make sure that you take that time with the child and show them that they're important. There's been a couple events that I've done where I personally knew the children who were there. And this one particular event happened last year, actually. There was a child who I knew. He was my friend's son. And afterwards he came up to me and he said, "I know that was you as Santa." So at the time I went, "Oh my God, what do I say?" But again, I was quick on my feet, and this is exactly what I said. And also it helps out that I don't see this child that much because I work a lot. So I don't get a chance to see him a lot. So I told him, I said, "When was the last time you saw me?" He said, "Oh, about 8 months ago." I said, "You know where I was the last 4 months?" He goes, "Work?" I said, "No." I said, "I was at the North Pole." I said, "Santa was training me, so this way I can be here today." I said, "It's very important that you don't tell any of the other children." I said, "Because I know, I will know, and I will tell Santa, and he'll have to put you on the naughty list." Thinking that just quickly on my feet made him a believer really quick. Again, everything with this goes back to being quick on your feet. You want to make sure that you have an answer for everything. And again, a non-verifiable answer. Is he really going to call my job and say, "Hey, was he at work the past 3 months, or was he at the North Pole?" No, he's not going to call my job. I can almost certainly guarantee he's not going to call my job and ask that. So you want to make sure that you have a good answer. If you want to use that story when you do your own Santa appearances, by all means, go ahead and use it. Just make sure that that child knows that you were out at the North Pole training to be one of Santa's helpers, and Santa trained you personally. So those are some of the tips and tricks that I learned throughout my time as being Santa Claus. I hope that you picked up some ideas, this way if you happen to go out and do your own Santa appearances, you can use some of the stuff that I use. Like I said, it's extremely helpful, and if you need to talk to me for whatever reason, or if you want to pick my brain a little bit more, you can email me at my email address right there, and I'll be happy to answer anything you need to know. And I can give you some more tips and tricks, especially after this season starts. I'm sure I'm going to have more things happen because, as always, throughout the season or throughout the years, I've had different things happen each year. So I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen this year, and I guess we'll have to wait and find out.